Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing well, Sarah. How you doing this evening?
Doing fine. I can't help but think about how, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
in a week's time, this film called Black Adam will be in theaters.
Not quite. Tickets just went on sale this week.
2 weeks? Like,
I want to
when is
say
it
it's
coming out?
I want to say it comes out October 21st.
October 21st. I had it in my mind like October 7th for some reason.
No, that's Werewolf by Night.
Yeah, you say that like I confused the two.
No, but I mean, but not that you
Werewolf.
confused the two, but that I mean, as far as like franchise things
So,
coming up, yeah.
so there's still time for that movie to get canceled. Got it. That's
Yep.
good to know.
Yep. Yes. I just looked. I confirmed it is October 21st, and yeah, there. Even though tickets have gone on sale, there is still time for it to be canceled.
Because it is DC, y'all. You never know.
Well, they did like even they even like tweaked trailers because I guess the Snyderverse people were all upset over showing Justice League footage. So anything's possible with that crowd.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking about things getting canceled, Star Trek 4 has been officially removed from the Paramount Pictures upcoming film slate, which I think because of all of the DC craziness, everyone forgot about this. There was a big story a few years ago, what feels like a few years ago,
Hmm.
about Chris Hemsworth coming back. There being
Yep.
some time travel thing happen. But the dude wanted a lot of money.
Yep.
And, there are egos at play because you have another Chris on board, that movie. But
Yeah.
it looks like we're not getting double Chris anytime soon.
Nope. 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 Yeah. So and it's funny because I think was it late last year? I want to say that there was an announcement that this film was going to be shot this year, and one of the Chris Pine was asked by a reporter at a opening, what do you think about the news of Star Trek 4? Are you excited about returning to the set, etc.? I'm paraphrasing the question, and Chris was like, "Really? There's a movie?" That was we actually, I think it broke one night when we were recording, so we had a good laugh about it then. How problematic it is when the studio announces something and they haven't locked down the star.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it was doomed from the start, and then like Max Shackman, who is of course now going on to Fantastic Four, was slated to direct this film, and then S.K. Jameson or something. She was Clarkson, I believe her name. She was also supposed to direct this film. So it's just been one thing after another. But bottom line, Star Trek's killing it on streaming. I mean, I know we had our definite issues with Star Trek Picard season 2 in particular, but between Lower Decks, which is going right now, Strange New Worlds, which I loved it. Prodigy, Discovery. I mean, they could just keep doing the streaming thing because I mean, really, like when I even tweeted this, I was like, when I saw that it was officially removed, I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that,
Nice. Um,
and I'm a fan.
right, right. Now this may be shocking, but I feel like people are treating this bit of news as if this never has happened in the MCU, and it's actually happened a few times. We just
Mhm.
forget about it because the end result is always, not always, but is typically good, so we don't care if it got a little bit messy in early development. But the long anticipated Blade movie, the director has officially parted ways with it, um, while the film was scheduled to begin in November. So maybe, I don't know if this just broke, but it's been a long time coming, and so Feige already has his plan B, or if this will delay production and then delay a scene, Mahershala,
Yeah.
in the MCU. Because, dude, that guy has been casted. Like, please do not let Blade become the Black Adam of the MCU.
Yeah. Wasn't this like the 2019 Comic-Con when he was announced,
Yeah,
or was it?
yeah.
Yeah. And Bassam Tariq, he was announced as director, and he apparently things didn't work out, and but he's staying on as executive producer of the film.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Hollywood Reporter broke this, and then also related to it, Jeff Snyder, who many people he's a film critic and columnist, but I think you and I both were introduced to him through the Schmodown.
Mm-hmm.
He actually tweeted earlier in the week about some issues with with the project, including one of the reasons why they let him go was, they just weren't very pleased with the development. I think there were only like 2 action sequences in the film that was at least had been written up to this point. The script apparently was pretty thin, page wise and content wise, it sounded like. And there's some people are feeling that Feige is getting overextended, given that he's got, all these films like cranking now the MCU and also all the TV shows. So, but you're right. I mean, this is not the first time this happened. I mean, Doctor Strange and Scott Derrickson, I mean, he left 4 months before they were supposed to start filming. So,
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man, yeah,
Yep.
another one, yep.
Yeah, I
And even
probably
John Watts with Fantastic Four, even though it wasn't at the stage that.
Oh
Blade
no,
is.
I wouldn't I wouldn't
Yeah.
compare that, but yeah, this has definitely happened before, but it's a small setback. We'll see how much it causes a delay. But I mean, Feige is also, despite all of these setbacks, we still get the movie in the long run. So we're probably going to get this movie. It's just, for some reason, we as fans, we like to say, okay, it's too much. And then it's like, but we want more.
We want more, yeah. and the thing, exactly. Another thing too is, I mean, when you think about it, we for better or worse, Marvel has the formula, and really the director is just sort of there to execute the formula that Feige has concocted. And
I think they have a formula for their origin stories, but to get to your point, I think it's Feige's plan at the end of the day. Yeah.
So, I mean, people could put their spins on it because, I mean, clearly Sam Raimi did with Doctor Strange, but it still had that base, like you said, that base Feige formula.
It still has to feel like it's another installment of this much grander, long-term television show that we've been watching. Just on the big screen. Well, depending on where you watch it.
True.
I literally watched Infinity War, or no, Infinity War.
And Endgame, yeah.
Endgame and No Way Home when I was traveling last week. So I was watching it on my cell phone. I don't care if the graphics are not like amazing on that. The stories are what get me through the long flights. So, but we do have other things to talk about. So real quickly, speaking about Jeff Snyder, he had also reported that Harrison Ford. Wait, well, come on now. So wait a second. So it's not so all we're saying here is Harrison Ford was considered to replace William Hurt as Thunderbolt Ross in the upcoming Thunderbolts movie. What kind of piece of news is that, Will?
It was one of those things that I was listening to his podcast with John Roca today, and he mentioned this particular bit that this either he was locked down to do it, and things just fell through, or they thought about it, but because apparently he's during the interview, if you go listen to it, Kathleen Kennedy put her foot down about if he were to replace the late William Hurt in Thunderbolts, that they couldn't do the announcement at D23 because they didn't want it to step on the Indiana Jones news that was dropped during that event. So long and short of it, I mean, I just thought it was a very interesting bit. I mean, a lot of people it's one of those things that'll probably be trending on Twitter for a bit. So I just figured I'd just throw it in for us.
Will is all about the Twitter trends,
Trying to keep my finger on the pulse of the geekdom.
yeah, finger on a pulse, but nobody predicted the next bit of news as our favorite funny man, Ryan Reynolds, made a short little video and dropped a huge bomb. Well, he didn't drop a bomb. He made a video, and in the background, we see the lovely Hugh Jackman just off the cuff, agree to return as Wolverine in Deadpool 3, a movie that, Deadpool, like when one of their movies drops, it's just like it's this big thing, and then you forget about it. But after watching this, it just made me think about how much I really like Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
I really remember liking that movie.
Yep.
Laughing at all the right places.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very much aware of the Jackman Reynolds love affair that has happened over the past few years. So this is just like, why can't it be 2023? Why do we have to wait until 2024? And you put on the rundown. We're just amazed that this wasn't leaked.
Yeah. I mean, because the film, if I understand, in production are pretty close to being done. So, or maybe but in any event, it's amazing that somehow that this wasn't leaked, and then the other thing, the first video, but then they dropped the second video. Sitting on the couch, and I'm just like, just do that. Just drop a video every couple months, just for fun, because
we don't even need trailers. We just need these videos.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need exactly.
We just need the trailers. We did get a big trailer drop this week, as HBO Max did drop the Last of Us series trailer featuring Pedro Pascal as Joel. So for longtime listeners, listeners, they know that I don't play video games, but they also know that I deeply admire and respect the Kind of Funny podcast and Kind of Funny games, and so I'm familiar with games, to put it short. But and this game came out a few years ago called Last of Us 2, and I randomly in the background as white noise listened to their review of it, which sparked a weird desire to want to know the story. And I did find all of the cutscenes, and so I do know what happens. I am very curious how long they can make this into a series, considering there are only 2 games, and it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's compelling, but it's a pretty straightforward story. So I don't know how long they can stretch it. Watching this trailer, it looks good.
It does.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch the entire thing, just because I'm like, no, I already know the story. I already know too much. But I am looking forward to this, and I just have a lot of curiosity about how they can make this work long term.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, whenever you're adapting a video game to live action, it's a rare gem when it works. And so, but the just really, yeah, like you, I was like, ooh, I'm really digging this, and uh, looking forward to this coming out next year. So,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I
it's
don't know. I never played the game. I've heard of it, but beyond that, whenever this project was first announced and Pedro was going to be involved with it, I did have to wiki it just get a little bit more detail about it, just because I'm just not familiar with the property. But yeah, I mean the trailer, I mean, it just had such like great visuals. I mean, the apocalyptic, horror kind of things, elements to it. I mean, it just seems like this was going to be a um, really cool show to watch. And I mean, plus it's being on HBO Max gives me um, good vibes as well, because I know the quality that goes into that network. They just don't put anything up.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad this is a show and not a movie,
Hmm.
because I also don't think you could do the story justice in the span of 2 hours.
Mm.
So I don't know how many episodes are in the first season. I'm assuming 10, unless it's a mini series, and then it might be more 6. But HBO Max tends to do 10 episodes.
Yeah, I don't. I remember whenever I think news first dropped, we knew the episode count, but I don't know. I can't recall off the top of my head.
Well, no worries, no worries.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay on HBO Max and head into Westeros and talk about House of the Dragon, the Princess and the Queen. The Princess and the Queen, Will. Um, my first thought and what I want to put out here is Olivia Cook owned this episode.
Hmm.
She just
Yeah.
owned it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it was really interesting to me because we talked about this last week, the time jump. We knew it was coming. It's here to happen. And these two pivotal characters, we're getting new actors to play these roles. And what is their chemistry going to be like? What is their chemistry going to be like with all of the actors and the parts that we've gotten to know over the past 5 episodes? And we start with Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra is still kind of that focal point. But man, Olivia Cook just took Allison to the next level.
Yeah.
And it's not that she overshined Darcy. I just think Allison had more to do.
I agree.
Because, and especially the way they left it with her in the previous episode, where she was featured very briefly, but like she wore green and she's still wearing green.
Yep.
Still wearing green. And I love how we first hear about the queen
Mhm.
as very ominous, like, oh, has she just gone off the deep end? Not really. She's picking her battles very wisely. And so we see her friction with Rhaenyra, and then her friction with her husband, Viserys. And then we also see this more of this idea that Allison understands this game now. Like, she's
Mhm.
woken up over the past 10 years. And that scene with her son, where she's just like, dude, these people you think are your friends and family, they will kill you in a heartbeat
Mhm.
because they want the power. And you're a threat to that. So wake the fuck up.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just love that. But then fast forward, and when she realizes how her politics has now killed a whole bunch of people,
Mhm.
like, you could see that horror. And
Yeah.
I was a little surprised they didn't hold on that for too long. They kind of brushed it aside, but for the few seconds they did, you could see in her face she didn't realize how much others um are going to manipulate her and make these decisions that have dire consequences, because at the end of the day, it's still Allison who we met in the first episode.
Yeah.
And so I like that she hasn't fully gone villain, and there's still an innocence and a goodness in her. It's just that due to her circumstances, she's being forced to play that part.
Yeah. Yeah, that was that was like the element that I did appreciate, as far as when Lara Strong, whenever all she, you're right. I mean, people were still taking advantage of her innocence, or not, maybe not innocence, but her naivete, as far as how these games are played here in the palace, because
Right.
he, she said, she was, clearly upset with how things are going, how, let's just go ahead, spoiler alert, how the bastards are still in
Yep.
line to the throne, when she has pure, quote unquote, pure blood. Well, she does have pure blood, Targaryen.
Well, technically
But I guess,
the bastards are Targaryen too. I
yeah,
mean,
Targaryen too. Yeah, but I guess recognized Targaryen, legitimate Targaryen. Because, but
no, Rhaenyra's Targaryen.
no, but I mean legitimate in the sense that they are of the marriage between her and Viserys, not the bastard kids. That's all I
Yeah,
meant.
yeah. They're not illegitimate children.
Right. And how, yeah, and how that, so she's venting, but then, the opportunist sees on that, and use it to their own ends. But you're right. I mean, as far as the concern that we had, I think, right, Sunday evening, when I messaged you, I was like, this felt like a new season. The time jump didn't. There were a few places where I thought they probably could have stayed on a few elements a little bit, just to give us a little bit more depth. But at the same time, replacing the two, Allison and Rhaenyra, didn't bother me so much, because both actresses, I thought, really picked up the core of what Emily Carey and Molly Alcott had with those two. And you're right, just took what we especially what we saw at the end of episode 5 and going into episode 6. It was like next level, how all the just things that just blew up at the end of episode 5, how Allison really did learn how to play the game. It took the words of her father to heart, whenever they
Right.
had their party at the episode 5, when he left the palace.
Right. Yeah. He So what struck me about it was, I think at one point she talks about, where's the decency? Like, where's, and I keep thinking about what I'm going to call the sex episode, where you have the parallel between Daemon and Rhaenyra in
Mhm.
that brothel, with Allison and Viserys in the bed.
Yeah.
And I think that the lie is one thing, the the protection, but I think also there's a bit of jealousy
Mhm.
that Rhaenyra did it when they were kids and got away with pursuing, like, doing what she wants, and yet she's still the princess.
Yeah.
And how Alicent, because she's not a Targaryen, she's only married, but she's pretty much been a prisoner in this kingdom, in that castle for so long. And she could never step out of line. She could never pursue anyone who she might be attracted to. Instead, she has to have this old man who's falling apart at the seams. Like,
Yeah.
I think that going back to that episode and thinking about the choices of what they showed between both girls, in terms of sex and love and marriage, I think that is at the heart of where this rivalry is really coming from, and the fact that in the span of 10 years, Rhaenyra has birthed 3 boys, and none of them look like their supposed father, which was a great. And I have to admit, as soon as that baby came out, I was like, huh, I don't think. I didn't even, like, they were still cleaning it up, and I was like, I don't think that's
yeah. That's not Valerian.
but maybe this is why, and it has nothing to do with Emma Darcy, because I think she did a really good job. Especially the opening sequence. The opening sequence in this episode is up there for me, because it was masterful in terms of her giving birth and then immediately being stubborn and just like, no, I'll take my son to see the king or queen. And the trail of blood behind her during that whole thing. And then you get kind of the introductions of like the other, like Laenor grown up and everything, and just going. But anyways, I think that because for me as a viewer, I guess because I kind of am a little bit on Alicent's side on this, just because I'm like, Rhaenyra, wake the fuck up. The kids look nothing like.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's
what
just
are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? I mean, because the moment the king dies, when the Viserys dies, you no longer have his cover.
Exactly.
And this going, I mean, and I haven't read the books and stuff, so I mean, but I mean, we're no dummies here. I mean, we know what path this whole issue is going to lead to, without having read the books. And she just like just rolls with it, and just so open about it, clearly open about it, especially now you got 3 kids. And then especially I think to the scene where when Strong has to leave the castle after breaking, after showing his hand because he fell for Sir Kristen's taunts and in the practice session. And that poor kid is just like, is he my, just flat out, is he my father?
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, you're right. Wake the fuck up, because the moment your days are numbered, and your kids, and I guess she does eventually come to her senses on that.
It only took 10 years, 3 children.
3 children, 10 years. And the death of her lover to get her there.
Wait a second. Did they leave before or after?
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like as soon as his dad came in and said, "Dude, you gotta go."
Yeah, it was after. But I mean, I guess it. Yeah. It's been.
Which I'm kind of a little pissed at Alicent about that, because that hand was probably the best hand. I mean, Otto was great. However, Otto towards the end did start to manipulate the king.
He did.
Now, this has been going on for 10 years. And there's one outburst, and suddenly it's like, I've been compromised. I can't do this anymore. And Alicent is just like, why can't you? And it's like, well, if he like he hasn't. It's not like he encouraged his son to do it.
Right. He didn't. I mean, but it's yeah, and it's funny like with the two hands because Otto like you said he did manipulate things, whereas Strong he really just was honorable, decent man who didn't encourage his son to like participate in this affair with Rhaenyra to
Right.
like gain favor or anything like that. Whereas Otto was just like, as soon as the queen the queen, I can't remember her name, died, Otto was just like, ooh, opening. He was scheming from that point. And
Yep.
so whenever she's like being so that I guess that's where I can't quite get on Alicent's side, because whenever she was like playing that game in that moment with the hand Strong,
Yeah.
and like forcing, like, well, can't you just tell us why what's going on here? And also, she should know. I mean, not to say she should know. I mean, I guess she's also, because since Viserys has always been very weak as far as being a leader. She has, in a way, she has manipulated and has become the dominant presence there in the
Council.
castle.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, so all those things together, it's like, yeah, I can't quite 100% get on board with Alicent either.
Yeah, I mean, and the bastard children are adorable and cute. Mm-hmm. The legitimate children are a bit like, okay.
I was like, are you sure they're not like, not being mean or anything? Are you the one already inbred? He goes,
are you sure they're not Damon's kids? What's going on here? Because we do have we have Aegon, the oldest.
Yep.
Who loves jerking out of.
I got Homelander vibes from him.
And so many people I've heard give that comment, and I think it's wonderful. I thought it was good. I thought it was an interesting way to set up that conversation that was really serious and just to start it. But
yep.
we see a lot of him, and
yeah, we did.
What I like is how a lot of people have been saying this show has been very small in terms of scope. I know it has dragons and it's big, cinematic and everything, but in terms of characters, stories, we're focused on this one family.
Yeah.
And now after 10 years, we really have two families under the same Targaryen banner.
Yeah.
And so the fighting is happening, or the start of this fighting, the feuding, is between two families, and Viserys is like stuck in the middle, and it's like, I have a kingdom to run, but I also have like my daughter's family, my wife's like it's so confusing. And I think that's really clever to kind of expand, but also keep it under the same house and make it more familiar, because families fight all the time. But it was cool to see that with the children, and then even between the children, where you do have Aegon, but then you have Edmund, who is the only one without a dragon.
Yeah.
Who and damn you, YouTube thumbnails, because I might have seen something about Edmund and potential future storyline where I'm like, did not want to know it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was clickbait, so it might be completely false. But yeah, I really like that, and I was surprised when we went away from the castle and we saw even further extension of this family as Daemon finally settled down.
He did.
He did. Damon. It's funny. Matt Smith did not get replaced. Yet there was something about Damon in this episode where it was clearly Damon, but it was like this neutered version of him.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Matt Smith. I mean, he could play this character in so many levels of this character. Because you're right, this Damon was just like he was just like I won't say beaten, but he was definitely but he basically was just like, I'm done with all the palace intrigue and bullshit there. I just want to sit here, read these history books about the Targaryen line and all the lore of Westeros, and he was just content with that. And then Lena, she was like, she's like, I'm the wife in exile here, and
Right.
clearly not happy with the circumstances that they're under, and it was missing home. And it's so funny, especially considering how when they first hooked up, at the party, where the seeds were planted for their relationship. That Damon, that was the Damon she fell for, and now she's stuck with this guy, and they have 2 kids and another one on the way, and so it was again, hats off to Matt Smith, because it just shows what a fascinating character Daemon Targaryen is.
Yeah.
So many layers to this particular character, because especially when we get to the scene where she is giving birth, and he's faced with the same dilemma that his brother had. And do you pick the child? Do you pick your wife? But she had agency, and she took it out of his hands.
How in the world did she get alone all the way to the dragon while she was in like that was one thing that's probably the first time this season I've been taken out of an episode due to lack of logic here.
Yeah. Apparently, I was listening to a recap, and apparently they did take some liberties and adapted it differently than how it was portrayed in the book.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many parallels with this episode and the first episode.
Oh yeah.
And I really liked that. But and it's not, and don't get me wrong, I did not want to go through another like killing of a woman, and no, I didn't want to see that. But it also was just very strange to me that like there's a look, and then what she's like, I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Like, how does that
she makes it out. But I guess the line that she says, where she, she's a warrior, and I want to, if I'm gonna go out, I'm going out like one.
Oh, I completely understand why she went.
Yeah.
So I'm more criticizing. Y'all had one job: keep the pregnant lady in the bed.
Like, they did. They failed at their one job for sure.
It's like,
I agree.
David, here's your decision. Okay.
Yeah.
But where did the pregnant lady go?
I have to admit, I did, even though I saw what they were doing there. I agree with you. It did take me out a little bit, because it was sort of like,
it was
suspicion, disbelief can go for so far. I mean, she's like, she's literally, the baby's like stuck in the cervix, and like working, and she can't barely. That one was one of those ones. I mean, even Rhaenyra, like, and doing what she was able to do, like right after birth and the afterbirth and all that stuff. I mean, that was hard enough to, like, that stretched it a little bit. But whenever they had the scene with her and walking out there to the dragon. That was, yeah, I agree.
Poor dragon. Yeah, they
Yeah,
math. They're so
yeah.
sad.
So
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It was a very like powerful moment though. Yeah, but yeah, I,
Yeah, well,
that
and that was a great
despite the flaws.
right, and it was a great actress, and I'm actually I'm mad that it's another person we meet for one episode who ends
Hmm.
up dying.
Yeah.
But I really liked, and I
Hmm.
really thought, oh, interesting character. The same thing with the queen in the first episode. I understand why these deaths are happening,
Yeah.
but they could just like not cast really good actresses for them. Um,
Yeah. But then we'll be
but
complaining like,
they want these deaths to have an impact. So
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I'm starting to wonder, and I know we have to wrap this up because we literally have two other shows to talk about.
Yeah.
But I am starting to wonder if Rhaenyra will not be killed by the end of the season.
Well, we do have a season 2.
But that doesn't. This is House of the Dragon. It's not Queen Rhaenyra.
Yeah, yeah.
I just
I
I will be shocked if the
yeah.
one big death in this season is Viserys, because that's not a shocking death to anyone. Like,
No.
we know he's going to die in
Right.
this season. Like, he can't go on
Yeah.
much longer. Like, especially
Yeah.
not another 10 years.
No.
But I was just thinking, now we have the children.
Hmm.
And I just wonder at what point will it become like Aegon's story or Emma's story?
Maybe she might survive the season, but maybe the first episode of season 2. That's when
Maybe.
first, yeah, or the first. Well, I guess maybe the first arc of the second season is that changing over to the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, they could push it for 3 seasons. I don't know. I'm just there's been a lot of reactors talking about this. The pace at which they are going through this story with these time jumps, with these deaths, when and we've talked about it too in terms of these shows that go on season after season. It's all about retaining stakes. And so if I'm sitting here just like, oh, Rhaenyra is always going to be around, then there's not much stakes,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like I said before, this is a very small show about one family. But Game of Thrones, it's all about the stakes and the political and people killing. Like, we gotta have a Ned Stark level death here, people. Spoiler alert.
It's coming. I mean, it looks like just looking at the preview for next week, the alliances are starting to be formed, and we shall see what happens.
Yep. All right. Okay. I guess we can talk about the other 2 shows now.
No. If you have anything, I mean, I know we'll have our supersized episode of House of the Dragon coming up in a few weeks, but we can continue. I mean, if there's something else you want to talk about.
I don't think so. I got through my major points. Okay. Did you have anything else?
No. I think. I mean, no. I don't. I think we've covered it all. I think we touched on every major point from this episode.
Awesome. Okay. So, 2 minutes on She-Hulk.
Yeah, that's all it needs.
Okay. I watched this episode during my lunch break today. I actually enjoyed it.
I did too, actually. I did too.
It was a good episode. I come home from work. I realize I didn't make any notes during that episode, and I also don't really remember any of it.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, this is group therapy, and I liked it. I liked how there was no B plot.
Yes.
Which I didn't realize while I was watching. And that's what I really appreciate, is it took me after watching it to realize, oh, we didn't see any lawyering happening. This was really about Jen and this struggle that has been a little bit repetitious, but she clearly has an identity issue. Yeah. It only took her to go to Blonsky's retreat and to sit around in a circle of some of the weirdest villains or hero or whatever you want to call them and have some group therapy, for her to realize that Jen is just as good, if not better, than She-Hulk. I really liked it, but at the end of the day, nothing big happened. Daredevil isn't showing up until the last scene of the last episode.
At this point, I don't, again, as Jen says, this is my show. So, all the people complaining about Daredevil, remember y'all, it's called She-Hulk. Daredevil's got one coming down the line, so just, but I mean, but I can understand where fandom is upset because they just played it up so damn much. So I can see why people are upset.
I mean, we wouldn't be as upset if maybe this episode featured a nice short B plot featuring Wong and Madison. Bring back Wong and Madison.
This would have been a good episode forward, especially as, I did think about it, honestly, whenever, because it was a very nice, there was a good sort of tease the way that with Blonsky's return, the inhibitor was, his parole officer was like, it's not working. And of course, they ended up finding out that he just had to run in with the electric fence. Supposedly. It wasn't Wong summoning him away. But so it did have that like promise of that. But you're right. I think the thing that worked for me in this episode was it reminded, I think her like obsessing over the text. And it I was like, they could have like folded the two episodes 5 and 6 into one episode instead of like stretching it over two. To her obsessing over the text and her insecurities and her identity crisis. I thought the therapy session was good. I mean, nothing will touch Therapy Patrol and Doom Patrol.
Right.
But for what this show is, I think they closed it. They closed this arc of her story and her journey consistent with the tone of the show.
Yeah.
And then of course, but the other thing is they insulted the intelligence of all of us when they were trying to play this head fake with Josh. Because we all knew he was the bad guy. I mean, we knew that he was gonna end up being it, but I guess it's consistent with this show. I mean, the show's not supposed to be like, it's supposed to be light and like not challenging your brain as far as plot.
When they had the guy who was in the gang who jumped her appear at therapy, I thought, oh, okay, now I get it. He's going to say something that might like take her off, that there's something bigger going on. So, but that didn't happen. And I was like, that's a lame payoff, because if that had happened, the whole 3 days earlier bit wouldn't have felt like, duh.
Yeah.
Duh. Predicted that a long time ago. I'm still waiting for that date. That date who obnoxious date. I'm waiting for him to be a part of it too somehow. But anyways, so that episode happened. We're still on Daredevil watch for the next 2 weeks. But yeah, I mean,
I'm just,
at the end of the day, this is not the best Marvel series, but I do have to say it is one of the ones where I'm not constantly checking the time and I'm just watching it and I'm just like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
We watch a lot of dark stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's good 30 minutes, and there you go.
Yeah, there you go. All right. On that note, we can head over to Star Wars and talk Andor episode 4.
Oh, yes.
Yes, Will.
Yeah, I'm just really digging this series. I really am.
I'm still so lukewarm. I'm so lukewarm on this. I do agree that, or I do have to say that the best scene was Mon Mothma and Luthen in the antique store, or him trying to sell her that under the guise. I really like that scene. It was one of the few where I stopped doing other things and actually paid attention, because those actors had great on-screen chemistry, and I was a bit disappointed when neither of them said "May the Force be with you," because I'm pretty sure that's the rebellion's code. But I like them talking in code.
Yeah.
I like how you learned a lot about their relationship, their dynamic, in such a short scene, and you just needed one scene. So I really like that. I'm sorry. I guess I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, but Karn, Cyril Karn.
Yeah.
For some reason, I like him. The dude, he screwed up. He gets demoted, kicked out, pretty much fired, and then he has to end up back at Mom. But there's something in his eyes that I just feel like there's other things at play here, where, like, I don't know, there's something else going on, and I feel bad for the guy because, I mean, we all messed up at our jobs.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
But man, he really had it handed to him.
He did, but I mean, like I said, when we talked about him last week, I thought about it, especially as I was watching the episode, especially now that he's back on Coruscant, and we get introduced to the ISB agents in particular, the agency, and then and of course Deidre Mero. But with getting back to Cyril for just a sec, I love to see, one, he had to go crawling back to Mom. She slaps him and then comes, she's like, on the one hand, because she's like, you fucked up. Oh, you had one job. And but come on home, Mom's always going to be forgiving.
Yeah.
But then either it's going to either strengthen his resolve, and he is going to get, as I mentioned before, really, have a chance encounter with one of these ISB agents, and not the Lieutenant Blevin, because I think he's trying to keep everything close to as far as what happened on Ferrex. But I think with Mero, with Deidre, I think he could be she might recruit him to do something for her,
right?
And do her dirty work on so that she can, assuming that she's not like a high level spy that Luthen is using to get information as well, in the ISB. But if she is true believer, hardcore Imperial, which I think she is, I think she's going to use this guy, or this guy may end up, becoming, so disillusioned with the Empire, and help become one of the early agents for the rebellion.
Right. Yeah, and maybe that's what I was picking up on, that he can now, given his situation, he could go either ways, in terms of what his relationship with the Empire will be, in the long run. And you're kind of, that's where Cassian is in a similar situation, where now he's a non-volunteer to the rebellion, where he's basically been like, go do this, kid.
Yep.
And then we might have a few other things, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We just want to see how you do with this. And I like it. I do this show, besides The Mandalorian. Yeah, I like this better than the other Star Wars shows. I guess I'm just still lukewarm because, and maybe it's because I don't know as much of the lore as I feel like you need to know, or you need to, I don't know, have a super interest in it.
Yeah, maybe that's it
That
because
I just continue to find myself very lukewarm on a lot of these Star Wars shows.
yeah, I could see that. I mean, and what I do like about this show, and I know Tony Gilroy mentioned it as far as I think I read an interview where he, I think the problem in particular with like that was really glaring and Obi-Wan and also Book of Boba Fett. They lean too heavy in some of the the nostalgia and the callbacks and things and Easter eggs for the sake of like having them. Here, I mean, this episode, it was like, they do have, there are things that like remind you that you're in this universe. Like one of the scenes that sticks out for me in this episode is when the TIE fighter, whenever Clem Cassian and Vel are like walking through the camp, and you hear the sounds of the TIE fighter flying through and the fear that it causes because there's not going to be an X-wing coming down to save your behind.
Mm-hmm.
So they're out. So what I'm really enjoying about this series is it really captures, beyond overusing Darth Vader, how evil and how dangerous the Empire actually was to really carry this, so that when we get to Rogue One and then later New Hope and the original trilogy, why the rebellion, what were why the stakes and everything for rebellion was so great. It just, so for me, I guess that filling in that backstory, some people could, you can make the argument, is it really necessary? And I could say,
Oh, are you talking about this series?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
well, yeah,
I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier in terms of the MCU. We always are like, it's too much, and then we want more at the end of
mm,
the day. Like
mm,
Star Wars is just another thing where, yeah, you might criticize, oh, this isn't a necessary story, but it's still a part of a universe you
yeah,
follow.
right.
So you don't care if it's good, bad, in the middle,
Well, I
whatever.
care if it's
But
good or bad or in the middle, because I mean, as a fan, I mean, I was sour on Boba Fett, and I thought it was just
oh,
very, yeah.
I
I mean,
try to forget about it, and then you always bring it up. I'm like, yeah, that did happen.
yeah,
Um, but
but I mean, yeah,
in terms of what you're saying, I agree. I agree that very subtly, this show is talking about the bigger picture.
mhm,
I I guess it's hard for me to paint, even though I hear about the empire coming in, taking over, exploiting resources, giving more to those who already have
mhm,
a lot, and not helping those who are in need of it. And maybe that's why that scene with Mon Mothma, especially when she even goes back and we meet her husband,
yeah,
who's very ignorant and lives in Delulu land.
yeah,
But you feel it with her character that,
mhm,
and 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 maybe that's it, because this is the first time we're seeing Coruscant. We're seeing her
mhm,
and what she has to deal with on a day-to-day basis of being a rebel but living amongst her enemy.
yeah,
That is a lot more intense than, I hate to say it, what Cassian's doing right now.
mhm, yeah,
Because I only say that because Cassian kind of pissed me off this episode. I felt like all he did was just
yeah.
ask questions.
Yeah, I felt Cassian honestly was, to me, he was the weakest link in the episode this week.
Yeah, I'm just like, dude, give the man. He, I don't know. There was just something about it where I'm like, this is our main character, and he's playing the straight man right now, where he's us, and we're like, he's asking what we're asking, but
Yeah.
I don't want my main character to do that. I want to know more about him, and yet now all of a sudden I'm like, Luthen's pretty interesting. I'm curious about Luthen. I'm curious about to see more and feel more of what Mom Martha's day-to-day life is. But no, we're stuck with Cassian, who knows nothing.
Well, another thing too, I feel like I learned more about Cassian from Luthen than I do from Cassian himself.
Right, right. Which they're doing because, and I've heard discussions about this. They're doing it because that's the question. Why does Luthen want Cassian? Like, what does Cassian bring to the table, and what it is? Because he ain't no chosen one, Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. I guess maybe that's just it. I mean, and I guess that's some of the groundedness of this series, because we're not dealing with Jedi, and we're not dealing with people with extraordinary abilities and chosen ones and all that stuff. I mean, these are really, like you said, I mean, we are living like Mom Martha. I mean, she is doing her day-to-day jobs in the Senate, but at the same time, she's just a regular person, and she's a politician. Don't get me wrong, but she's having these issues of living among this corrupt bureaucracy and trying to do right by her people, and then we do see the gang that Vel is part of, this cell of the rebellion. I guess the early stages of the rebellion, and there's only like 6 of them, and Luthen's like putting Cassian in this place where he's got she's got to like sell to this group that, oh yeah, it was all a part of my plan. And all these people are, again, very regular folks who are just trying to take on this vast empire. And so those are the kind of grounded things I like about this series, that it's just very refreshing for me. And I think that's one of the cool things about the Mandalorian too. I mean, he's just he's a guy.
Right. The main characters are, but we're gonna get some Jedi in this series.
Oh, well, we got a Kyber crystal tonight. Yeah, I mean, which was like
it won't take long for them to pull the good old toys out of the play chest, and even Mandalorian did.
Yeah, we'll get one. Yeah, maybe Certain Organa season 2 or something like that, or some, maybe Ashoka, shows up somewhere. I mean,
I heard that Ezra is showing up.
Ezra may show up, or
no, I legitimately cast him, Will.
Huh?
I heard that there was casting. Like,
he's casted. He's casted for Ashoka.
Yeah. Oh, I heard he was cast for this show.
Well, for season 2?
I don't know.
It would have to be season 2.
Okay. Well, we're going off on a tangent.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, there are Jedi, because, like, for example, with Rebels, the timeline the timeline would sync up with being the same time period as Rebels, so it's very possible that the characters from Rebels could show up, which they did have the Jedi in there. So
yeah, they all have Jedi. This is Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna have it, but right now we get the normal folk for a little bit, which and this is my last point is and maybe this is also something unique about this show, but the evil people, the people we're meeting, considering we started with the mall cops, and now we're up to the I don't know how you would put it, the supervisors, the supervising crew. Like, they're not evil. There's something about it where the way they're playing it, it's very corporate, climbing ladders. You just want to get moved to the next step. And the fact that they how it's shot in those bases, everything is very I want to say stale, but that, I don't think that's the right word. It's there's something about it where it feels very robotic. So, and I think that's another reason why I know that overall who the enemy is, but I don't have necessarily a villain to like, that is a villain to be the face of it.
Right. And it is kind of like a slow burn. I mean, it's like you're right. I mean, we you know, it's like the sterile bureaucratic office that, you know, when you think of, you know, that very utilitarian and you know, you would just think like, oh, well, okay, just like your normal bureaucracies, but I can't see it being like a, you know, a sadistic empire. But I mean, but that's what it is. And it was very corporate. And you're right, it did have a very corporate feel because everybody was just trying to jockey for position and you know, curry favor, even though I guess it's, you know, I guess it's like the ISB, I guess it's the equivalent of the Gestapo for the empire. But,
right. No, it's all very interesting. Like I said, I just have to be honest. I'm still lukewarm on this. I'm still doing other things while watching the episode, which is never a good sign. But
it's a slow burn. This is not as slow as Sonata that we sort of kicked off.
Please remind me. How many times does Will tell me it's just a slow burn, Sarah? It's just a slow burn, and I'm like, okay, I don't care if it's a slow burn. I don't like it. I like it.
This is a good slow burn. This is one that works, unlike other ones. The writing's so much better.
We agree to disagree. I mean, like, I don't even disagree with it. The writing's fine. I want to say it's the best. It's fine. But, like, come on, Will. I have House of Dragon to compare everything to right now.
I know. Yeah, I know. We're 4 weeks, y'all. We're gonna have to go on. Like, gotta find Sarah something good to like fill the void until
there will be. I went years without Game of Thrones. I can go another 9-10 months. But anyway, on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.cnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, geek out. You're welcome.